Hi guys. Yep. Bipolar hot mess again. I can't believe we're already in the 9th video in this series. Based off of DBT Made Simple. This is a continuation of last video. Last video we talked about mental noting, and I said that we would have another video that was going to talk about how to be non-judgmental in our thoughts. So this is the non-judgmental part, and like I always do, I have to do my doctor disclaimer. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, therapist, psychologist, I don't have any licenses, except driver's license. So these videos are not meant to replace anything that your psychiatrist, psychologist, or anything that your doctors or your treatment team are giving to you as part of your plan. This is just basically just my interpretation of what's going on in this book, and some people express some interest in learning just an overview of what DBT is because their doctors have also suggested it to them, just as mine has done to me. So this is just a little overview, and don't take this in like to be used instead of anything that your doctor is giving to you or telling you to do as part of your treatment plan. So with all that legal stuff, behind us, back to where we left off, which was learning about how to mental note without judgment. First, kind of let's discuss how to identify what a judgment is. Judgment refers to the act of assessing or evaluating someone or something as either positive or negative in some way. We tend to judge things all the time. When you first start to look at it, you'll find that it's probably hard to do or to experience something without judging it, because it's just something that we've just come to do as just every day. Even if it's a positive judgment, it's not exactly ideal, and you don't want to get into a habit of using it, because when you're making a judgment, you're creating assumptions, and those assumptions, whether they're positive now, they could leave a context for it to become negative. For example, if you say that you have a friend and this is a good friend, well, somewhere along the line they might do something that might end up making them a bad friend. So make the good part of them being when you say they're a good friend, the good part is what the judgment is. So you're judging their friendship as being good. When they do something that can make them bad, then they're the bad friend, or they're a bad friend. So you're judging them that way. So it started out as a positive, but then it became negative. So it's really best to just steer clear from any judgments. A lot of times negative judgments come from painful emotions. If you have a lot of hurt or anger, disgust, or pretty much any other painful emotion, it can cause you to cast a judgment. An effect of the judgment then from those negative feelings is that it'll increase the emotions. And especially if they're negative, they're going to increase those negative emotions. Like when I gave you the example in the last video about the anxiety, and sometimes just like thinking about anxiety is giving you more anxiety. Well, that's kind of the same principle here, that you're going to have these negative judgments, and then from these negative emotions, and then it's going to end up increasing the negative emotions, and it's going to cause more emotional pain, and it's going to just increase the intensity, and then it's a cycle, and once you start the cycle you can't get out. So it's best to just steer clear of that cycle altogether. Research actually has shown that venting anger, which sometimes we think that by venting we're going to get it all out and it's just going to make us feel so much better. But really, research has found that when you're venting anger, it involves judging, and it actually increases your feelings of anger and aggression, and most likely adding fuel to the fire and increases the angry thoughts and urges, which lead to more angry emotions, more angry behaviors, and again, the cycle. So, again, trying to steer away from judgments it's hard. It's really, really hard. I mean, it's not going to be easy at first, but it'll be really helpful. Just in general. I mean, just think about the negativity that it brings to your life, and if you can kind of get yourself away from as much of the negative as possible, then it makes it just a lot better for you. So try to think about the last time you made a judgment. The book provides, and I'm going to post on the website also, the Judgmental Thoughts Tracking Sheet. And what you have here is they ask you to write down the situation, the emotions about the situation, judgments that resulted from the emotions, extra emotions triggered by the judgments, and then the outcome. Was it a positive or negative? Did it help you work towards your goals? So one example here, I'm just going to give you an example that they gave on their sample sheet. It says, for the situation, my best friend hardly ever calls me anymore. When we talk or get together, it's because of my efforts. So the emotions about the situation are hurt and annoyed. So the person's hurt and annoyed that their best friend hardly ever calls them anymore, and when they do, it's because they're the ones that initiated, not their friend. The judgments that resulted from those emotions. They thought that the friend is thoughtless and that she should be putting more effort into the friendship. And extra emotions triggered by those judgments, anger. So they felt more angry because they believe that the person is thoughtless and that they should be putting more effort into the friendship. And then the outcome, they wrote, I got more and more angry and decided to call her and give her a piece of my mind. I told her what I thought and said some hurtful things, and she hung up on me. That's one example of what they wrote for the tracking sheet. It's every day we make so many judgments that I think when you really sit down and take a look at it, you're going to be amazed by how many judgments we actually make in a day. So, if you can try to think about the last time you made a judgment, or even if you could take one day and say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to track all of my judgmental thoughts. And even if you just write down what those thoughts are and then go home and try to fill out the sheet about each one of those, you'd be amazed. I mean, just thinking, even just writing them down, not even writing them on this tracking sheet and going through all the analysis of it, just writing down all the judgmental thoughts that we think every day. I think you'll be completely amazed. But other than triggering more pain, judgments are also unhelpful because they don't provide any useful information to us. They're just a label that we stick on things instead of saying what we really mean. They're not really helpful. It's kind of like, I'm trying to think of what show it was, but they were trying to come up with, I think it was Seinfeld or something, and they were trying to come up with an idea, and they said, it's a jump to conclusions mat, where you just jump to the conclusion and you jump on the mat. And that's kind of like what it is. Like, when we make a judgment, we're just jumping to conclusions. We're just, like, jumping to whatever comes first in our head. It doesn't mean that it's reality. It's just what came first in our opinions and in our minds. So that's what I mean. They can end up causing us more pain because we find out that, you know, we've been assuming all of these like hurtful things and all these bad things, and, you know, and really they're not true. So regardless of what, you know, you mean by a judgment, negative judgments are hurtful. And whether they're directed at someone else or if you're directing them at yourself, they can be hurtful. I mean, and self-judgments can be especially problematic for those of us who are emotionally dysregulated, which is, I would assume most of us, since that's why we're trying to engage in DBT, is because we're trying to learn how to regulate our emotions. And why are they, you know, problematic for us? Well, I mean, partly because we've already had, you know, in some cases, we've had an invalidating environment growing up, which taught us to respond, you know, harshly to any type of perceived failure, like, you know, that our thoughts or feelings or beliefs, they're incorrect, invalid, they're stupid, ridiculous, silly, you know, they're crazy. Like, we've just had all these, we've always just, you know, put all these, like, these, you know, imposed judgments on ourselves because, you know, growing up, you know, we never had anything that was like validating us in a positive way. So then we start to automatically assume that everything that we're saying and everything that we're judging is true. And so we're judging ourselves in the same way, and we just keep that pattern going. And it's a learned behavior, that, you know, the self-judgment. And it's understandable why we're judging ourselves in that way, but it's not helpful. And it's definitely something that we need to work on because, you know, those judgments they're not good for us. I mean, our self-esteem is just dwindles with each, you know, self-imposed judgment that we put on ourselves that really doesn't need to be there. So, I think that that's something that we really need to work on. And again, like trying to keep track and writing down each judgment, just being aware, like, and trying to make yourself aware of each statement as it's a judgment or whatnot is gonna change, I think, perspective tenfold. I don't think any of us realize how often a judgmental statement either pops into our head or pops out of our mouth. And again, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's, directed at ourselves or directed at someone else, but it's amazing. And judgments aren't always words, but they can also be facial expressions or the tone of our voice. So keep that in mind as well. There are some times, though, that we need to keep judgments. We can't completely rid our lives altogether of judgments. There's things like evaluations at work. If you're a teacher and you're grading, you need to be able to make judgments then. And assessing if a situation is safe or not. You know, like if you're walking by yourself in a neighborhood and you need to make a judgment call, like, you know, should I walk down this street or should I wait and walk down another street? You know, that's a judgment right there, and that is something that that's something that you just can't get rid of. Like, you have to have some sort of judgment calls when it comes to things like that, like your safety and things like that. When you're driving, you make judgments all the time, like, okay, do I turn in this lane? Should I go over to this lane or should I not go to this lane? You make judgment calls when you're deciding what to eat and things like that. There are some times where you're going to have to make judgments, so we can't completely eliminate them altogether. But the judgments that I'm talking about in this video are the ones that are dealing with our emotions and the ones that increase our emotional pain. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to regulate our emotions, and if we can get rid of things that are going to cause us emotional pain, that's going to help us regulate them. So and we're learning these DBT skills because we have difficulty managing our emotions. So anything we can do to reduce the amount of pain we experience is going to help improve our ability to regulate our emotions. So it's time to let go of those negative judgments against ourselves, against others. It's impractical for me to try to tell everybody, or to try to say, or even for the book to try to say, that to be non-judgmental 100% of the time. It's absurd. There's always going to be, we're always going to have some judgmental thoughts, but the issue is we just need to take a look and see if the pain is proportionate to the situation. And if it's not, if the pain is completely disproportionate to the situation, then those are the ones that we just need to let go, because those are the ones that are causing us the most harm. So how can we learn to be less judgmental? Well, we can start by taking our judgmental statements and trying to turn them into neutral or non-judgmental statements. So, like I suggested earlier, try to keep track of, you don't even have to keep track of all of them, but just keep track of one or two, or as many as you can, judgmental statements in a day. So maybe tomorrow, jot down a couple of them, and then you're going to try to take that statement and turn it into a non-judgmental by saying what you really mean and expressing your emotions and stating the facts of the situation. So all you want to do is express your emotions and state the facts of the situation. You don't want to, include any sort of conclusions or, it's hard to say, don't include any judgments, but, when you're thinking about things, you just want to think about your emotions. I'm feeling sad. This made me feel angry. This made me feel upset. And then you state the facts of the situation. My friend called me and said she couldn't make our lunch date. That made me upset. That's a neutral or a non-judgmental statement. If you say, so therefore she's a bad friend, you're making a judgment. That's a judgmental statement. If you're just saying, I'm sad, or I'm upset, or I'm hurt because my friend canceled our lunch plans, that's a non-judgmental statement. So try to, any statements that you jot down for the day, if you can, go home that night then and see if you can change that into a neutral or a non-judgmental statement, then just the process of taking your own words and your own situations and trying to make them into something that's non-judgmental, that's going to help start getting your brain into the process of thinking that way. And so maybe the next time you make one of those statements, you're going to stop and think for a second, wait, that's a judgmental statement, and then try to reword it yourself in your head. That's not going to happen right away, obviously. But, over time, as you're reworking, some of these judgmental statements, then, you're going to, it's going to come easier, and you'll be able to recognize a lot of them a lot faster too, the more you do it. So, that's pretty much all I have, for this video, and that ends this chapter, right? Yep, that's it. So we're learning how to be less judgmental, because part of DBT is to experience the thoughts and stuff without judgment. That phrase, without judgment, is really big when it comes to DBT. So It's really important that we learn how to take the judgment away from what our thoughts are, and from the things that we say. As much as we can. We can't obviously do it 100%. But the judgmental thoughts tracking sheet, again, I will post this on the website on www.bipolarhotmess.com, and there's a special link or a special page for the DBT videos, and it has the videos, and then there's a link for the worksheets. So I'll post this worksheet up there too, and then we'll move on to, let's see what, next we're going to be learning about the styles of thinking, the reasoning self, the emotional self, and the wise self. So yeah, these look like probably one video for this one. For the next one, doesn't look like it's too long, but again, every part of this is important, but anyway, also keep practicing all of your the mindfulness practices, and also I have on there the mindfulness tracking sheet, so that's supposed to be helping you guys kind of keep track of how long you're doing the exercises, so you can track your own progress and see if you're improving, and see if any of this is helping you. I'm very interested in any feedback that any of you guys have, like if any of you guys are, have been following along these videos and have been, practicing on a pretty regular basis. I definitely like to know how it's working for you. That kind of goes towards my book review too. I want to know if it's helping any of you guys, because I'm going to speak to how it's helping me. So you can email me at bipolarhotmess@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment on the YouTube channel after the video, or you could send me a message on my Facebook page, or leave a comment on the Facebook page. Either way, but that's all I've got for you till next time. And yeah. Okay. Well, I will see you guys next time. Bye.